Okay, so it looks like it's doing nothing, but it's kicking here in the chorus. So check this out.
It could be something new.
Right, so it's really just getting activated in the choruses there to even that out a little bit over there. Then after that, got this 1176 blue face, just to add that bit of edginess in this pop kind of style that we're going for over here. And this is always a great compressor on vocals. So take a listen to before and after.
I met you there that eve when the sky was a starry host. I met you there that eve when the sky was a starry host. I played my guitar for you.
Right, so it's not doing much either because it's much softer over there. But maybe just take a listen to it before and after in the chorus here. So this is bypassed.
It could be something new, born around you. It could be something new, born around you.
So you hear it kick in there. Oh, it just makes it so nice and smooth, and it just brings it forward a bit. I really like that. So that's pretty cool. And we'll just leave it at that for now. It's sounding quite good. We've enhanced it quite a bit there with compression, that valve over there, and this bit of EQ over here. And let's do Megan's vocal, and then we'll move on from there. So Megan's vocal at the moment sounds like this. Let's just play maybe this chorus section.
It could be something new, born around you.
Right, so let's have a look at the first EQ over here. And what we're doing here, we're adding some 15K, 4.2 dB, about 2 dB at 5.6, cutting a little bit at 380, a little bit at 180. We're cutting low shelf, about 2.5 dBs, and then a high pass filter at 82. So take a listen to what it sounds like when this kicks in. So this is before.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
Right, so it's definitely a lot clearer then. As you probably picked up there though, what does it sound like we need to fix there? Those S's are coming back, aren't they? But we'll get to that now. Let's first carry on with enhancing it, and we'll put this LA2A on over here and take a listen to what it sounds like with this.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
Right, so we're just squashing it a little bit there, being quite aggressive with her voice. In fact, we've got this 1176 afterwards to even squash it a bit more. Take a listen when we put this one on.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would...
It actually sounds like it's a little bit too aggressive. I feel like I want to just drop it back there a little bit. But it sounded quite cool in the mix.
It could be something new, born around you.
It's quite cool though. It just kind of adds a little bit of attitude there, which is quite nice. And we can always tweak it when we get in the mix. But that's what we'll just do for now. So that's pretty much covers the enhancement for all the individual tracks over here. But there's something else that we can do, and that's the master bus. So we can enhance that as well. And on the master bus here, I've got 3 plugins here. I've got this valve plugin, a compressor, and this Dewey's wide over here. So let me show you as I put each one of these in what this sounds like, because we're going to actually be mixing through these now. And whenever you're mixing through something, in fact, I probably should have done this first. It really depends. Some people like to put things on at the end, some people in the beginning. I tend to prefer putting them on earlier on in the mix because, you know, if you're enhancing things and if you're mixing through them, they're going to affect the decisions that you make, right? So if you're using an EQ and you've got, or say you're using a compressor on your track, when you're hearing it in context of hearing the compressor on your master, which is compressing everything, you might not compress as much because that's obviously going to be adding compression itself. So I like to rather mix through it, and so I'll just activate these plugins one at a time so you can hear what they sound like as they kick in.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down. It could be something new, born from us two. Close your eyes and Pray that we'll come to the right conclusions.
Right, so each of those are just adding a little bit of something there. It's actually kicking up, it's actually quite a lot of makeup gain on this. I'm just going to drop this back a bit. Kind of about 3 dB over there. So it's basically just this Dewey's valve over here, adding a bit of warmth. This compressor, compressing very little, about 1 or 2 dBs over there, not much at all. I just find it glues it together a little bit. And then Dewey's wide is just adding a little bit of stereo width. I really like what this does. I'll just play it for you. Obviously the mix is not together yet, but just take a listen anyway.
It could be something new, born around you.
Right, so it actually doesn't do much yet because we don't have anything panned yet, do we? So we haven't done that yet. So we'll come back to that just now and I'll actually show you, what it's actually doing. Alright, so that does it for enhance for now. Let's move on to the fourth mixing driver, which is shape. Now, what is shape again? Well, shape is anything that we do to shape the instruments to fit better together in context, so together in the mix. So like I was saying earlier, you've really got to enhance the tracks and add all the different things that you're going to be adding before you can really shape them, because you don't really know what they're going to sound like. So how do you shape something that you haven't done yet, right? So I like to do the enhancement first and try and get the instrument sounding, to me, like it sounds really cool. And over time, as you get more experience, you'll start to get an idea of how you can enhance a track in a way that's going to work in context of the mix anyway, that it's actually like you're thinking in advance now. But at first, what I'd say is just enhance the tracks to where they sound cool to you. Don't spend too long on them, but just enhance them to how they work for you. And then you move on to shape, which is really listening in context. Now we're going to be listening to how we can enhance the tracks, but in context of the whole mix. So obviously, because I've already done this mix now, or at least a basic mix of it, certain frequencies have already been added or subtracted, not just to enhance the track, but also to shape them. So, for example, this high-pass filter over here is a great example of how we shape tracks. So, by taking out the low end over here, we just clean up the track to fit better in the mix. Because if we leave all the low end on all these tracks in over there, they start to sound really muddy. And we've actually got a bass guitar on this track, so we don't need all that stuff in there, right? So by shaping this out, by taking that out, it makes room now for the bass guitar to sit better. And what I can tell you is when it comes to shaping, this session here is pretty simple. There's not a lot going on here. But this gets really, really important when you've got 40 or 50 or 60 tracks going on your session, and you've got guitars and drums or synths and all kinds of things going on. Then shaping really takes on a whole new role and a whole new meaning, where if you're not doing that, you just end up with a total mess, and it just sounds really muddy. So that's one example of how we're doing it. And you can see over here we're taking out all of that. Bass guitar over here, you could think of this as shaping as well, how we put a low pass filter on at 12K. There's nothing above there really that's useful, maybe a bit of noise or something like that. So we're just taking it out and we're shaping it to fit in the mix. And so if you look at this analyze over here quickly, and I just play you a piece over here.
It could be something new.
So this is our spectrum over here, and you can't work on this purely, but it's just sort of a good example to use. I've tried it before where you EQ and you watch the analyzer and see how you can shape it, and that doesn't actually work that well. You really just need to use your ears. But if we play one of these guitars over here, so this one, for example, if we took these elements, let's say just take the EQ off only. So I'll leave everything else, the valve plugin and the LA2A and the LA3A, so the compressors. This is what it sounds like without the EQ. Right, so listen to that in the mix now.
To end when the sun went down. It could be something new, born from us two. Close your eyes and pray that we'll come to the...
Right, so I kind of exaggerated there a little bit, but in order to hear that track now, because it's lost that top end, in order to hear it, we've now got to bring it up a lot just to be able to hear it in the mix. But then what happens when we bring it up? Well, then all the other frequencies start coming up as well, and they start clashing with everything else, especially the vocals. They start getting in the way. And that's probably one of the the main things that you've got to watch out for are other instruments clashing with the vocals, and guitars are one of the biggest problems often because they in a very similar range, right? So when you look at that frequency analyzer again, the spectrum analyzer, the guitars are kind of in this area here.
To end when the sun went down.
Let me just solo that guitar again. Right, so it's essentially the same range as the vocal. Now look here, when we put this EQ on here, what it does to that spectrum. Right, so we're pushing it more into this top area over here, around 8K to 16K. And so when we push it up over there, it's almost like think of it like a shark fin sticking out of the water, right? So you only need to see that top of that shark fin in order to know that there's a shark there, right? And so you could kind of think about that in the same way with EQing different instruments, right? So when we add that top end over there, that's kind of sticking out of the mix now, so we don't need to make it as loud overall in order for it to get heard. So before that, when it's more flat, in order to get this thing heard, we've got to bring everything up over here, right? I hope that makes sense. And the point is, when we bring everything up, then it starts clashing with other things. So we're trying to shape these things. You could think of that as an extreme example. By adding top end here, it would be the same as taking away mid-range here as well, which is mainly where the vocal is. So that's one of the things that you can actually do. If you've got instruments clashing with your vocal, what you can do is actually take away some mid-range if you need to. So say we took an EQ over here, and let's just take a Q6 for example, and you can actually make a cut over here. For example, you probably want to use a wider bandwidth to make it a little bit less obvious over there, but you can do a wide frequency cut like that. Maybe that's a little bit too much over there. You've got to experiment a little bit, but you could do that, which is then making more space for the vocal basically to be heard. It'll just make it much clearer. So whatever the key focal point of your song is, and often it is the vocal, if there's vocals in the song, that's usually the thing that everyone's listening to, and it's the key thing, then it's important to shape your other instruments around there. So that's one kind of key thing over there. Now, there's some other examples that we can have a look at over here. We've taken some things out of the lead vocal here. Now, there is an overlap between what you might consider as fixing or what you might consider as shaping. Just like there's an overlap between what you might consider enhancing or what you might consider